In this video, I'll show you how to create macros that can prompt a user to make a selection and then display a result based on that selection. We'll also see how to make macros that can read values from a character sheet, how to make macros that can reuse a value that was entered, and macros that can read values from multiple sheets. Alright, so let's get started. So the key concept to all of these macros is what's called an inline roll. You're probably familiar with rolling dice like this in Roll20, where you roll 1d6 and you get your result. But you'll notice that all of the macros that I just showed have these yellow boxes rather than the full display of the roll's output. So we're going to start out by showing how to create those. And an inline roll is actually really simple to create. You just have a pair of double brackets and then the type of die that you want to roll. So double brackets, 1d6, closing double brackets gives us our output. You can see if I hover over it, it tells me 1d6 and I got a 5. Now the double brackets syntax is not limited to just a single die roll. We could say 2d4 and then plus 2, which is the formula for a healing potion in 5e of Dungeons & Dragons. So double brackets, 2d4 plus 2, closing double brackets, gives me an output of 7, and if I hover over that, I can see the output of my die roll. And I can see my 2d4, I rolled a 3 and a 2, plus 2, gives me 7. And this concept of inline rolls is central to the macros we're going to create today. So we've started out here with our basic 2d4 plus 2 roll. So I want to turn that into a macro. So I'm just going to copy that. I'm going to go to my collection tab here. I'm going to say add macro, and I'm going to call this healing potion macro. And I'll paste in my die roll here. I'll click save changes. All right, and then I'll come back to the thing here and I can type in healing potion macro. And there we go. There's my 2d4. But the thing is, there's no output in the chat telling me what this die roll represents. If I'm a player in the game, my DM's going to be like, well, what's this? You know, he or she'll have to hover over this to figure out what die I just rolled. I'd like it to display in the chat that this is a healing potion. So we can do that. We can go back into our macro here. I can go into my healing potion macro that I just created, and I can say healing potion used, and then my die roll, HP recovered. And I'm going to save changes. I'm actually going to put this macro in the bar down here. And so now I can roll my healing potion macro, and it says healing potion used, 9 HP recovered. And incidentally, the green border around the die roll means that one of the dice that you rolled came up with the maximum value. You see here the 4 is in green when I hover over it, so that's the maximum value. Here, if you see red, it means that one of the dice had the minimum value. And at some point today, we may get a blue one too, which means you have both the highest and lowest value rolled on the dice. But this is pretty nice now. I've got a message saying healing potions used, 9 HP recovered. But that's still kind of bland. I'd like to spice this up a little bit more. And in order to do that, we're going to use what's called a template. Now, there are a bunch of different types of templates available to you. Each game, whether it's D&D 5e or Pathfinder or Paranoia or Call of Cthulhu, all of those character sheets have their own built-in templates. For me to go through every single possible template would make this video way too long, so I'm going to focus on just the default template, which is common across all the character sheets. And then you can look up on Roll20's website the templates that are specific to your character sheet in your system. So ultimately what we're going for is this purple box with the label healing potion, and I've got the text saying healing potion used, and then the amount of HP recovered. So that's what we're going to create. So how do we do that? Well, if I go back into my macro here, I'm going to start out with information about the template I want to use. So that's going to be ampersand, open curly brace, template, colon, default. All right, so we're using the default template for the character sheet. And then 2 curly braces. We're going to say name equals healing potion. And that's what's going to appear here in the title bar of this table. And again, you want to have 2 curly braces closing this. Now we're going to do another pair of open curly braces, and we're going to say healing potion used, and equal sign, and then our die roll of 2d4 plus 2, and then closing brackets, and then HP recovered, and 2 more closing curly braces. And you'll notice I let the text wrap naturally. I didn't put in line returns as I was doing this. You don't want to do that. If you put line returns into the box here, then the text will break improperly and the macro will not format properly. So just one thing to know about that, let the text naturally wrap around. Okay, so healing potion used becomes what's in the left-hand side here. Then we've got our die roll and then HP recovered. So we'll click Save Changes here and we'll roll that. And there we go. We see healing potion used, 4 HP recovered. At this point, I need to point out that the macros we're creating will not automatically heal our characters on their character sheets. You can't do that sort of thing without using the Roll20 API, and we're not going to go into that in this video. This macro is coming along pretty nicely, but if you've played D&D 5e, you know that there are multiple types of healing potions out there. We don't want to have to make a different macro for every single healing potion that exists. We want to have something more like this, where a user gets prompted, what kind of healing potion are you using? And then the macro will tell us, okay, we used a superior healing potion and we recovered this amount of HP. So how do we do that? So the first thing we need to do is see how to make the macro prompt the user for a particular selection. And the syntax for that looks like this. You start with a question mark, and then an open curly brace, and then we'll say potion type, and then we want to have multiple potion types available here, so they can choose the regular healing potion, the greater, and so on. So this becomes the prompt. What type of potion are we using? And then each selection that we want to make available will be separated by a pipe, which is this vertical line that's above the enter key on American keyboards. So I'm going to say potion type, and then regular, and then another pipe. We'll do greater, and then another pipe for superior, and then another pipe for supreme. And then closing curly brace here. Okay, so now if I run this, there's it, potion type, and you can see this corresponds to that initial item here. And then regular, greater, superior, and supreme are all here. And again, so each item in this drop-down list is separated by that pipe. And if I make a selection and submit, you see, okay, it entered greater. All right, that's fine, but we want to have a certain amount of dice rolled depending upon the healing potion that was selected. So we're going to build on this query a little bit here. We're going to put a comma after the word regular, and then we're going to put in our inline die roll, 2d4 plus 2. And then I'm going to repeat that for my other types of healing potions. So greater healing potion is 4d4 plus 4. Superior is 8d4 plus 8. And supreme is 10d4 plus 20. So now, if we run this, okay, potion type, let's use greater, submit, and we see that we rolled 4d4 plus 4. Okay, so now we can take this and we can wrap it into our template. So I'm going to go back to my healing potion macro, and I'm going to change this. I'm just going to copy this right here, and I'm going to paste it in between those original curly braces here. We'll save the changes, clear that out. We'll say healing potion macro, and we're going to say let's do supreme this time. Okay, we see healing potion, and there's our 42. Okay, but even though the macros run, we don't have anything telling us what sort of healing potion was actually used. So we need to do a little bit more tweaking here with the macro. So what I'm going to do is go back into the macro itself here, and before each die roll, I'm just going to say regular healing potion used, and then after greater, I'll just say greater healing potion used, and then superior, we're going to do the same thing. And we'll also do that for supreme. Save the changes. Rerun the macro. Let's do a greater this time. And there we go. Greater healing potion used, 14. How do we get the HP recovered? Well, we go back to the macro, and we'd say, after the die roll, we would say HP recovered. And I'm just going to repeat that for my other potions here. Okay, so I've copy-pasted it each time. Save the changes. Run it one more time. Let's just do a regular this time. And we see that a regular healing potion was used. 8 HP was recovered. So now if I'm the DM, what I can do is I can go in, I can find my macro that I've just created. I can scroll down here and I can make this visible to all my players. Save the changes, and now all my players will have access to that healing potion macro, and they can use it whenever they need to. And I'll be putting all of the text for all the macros down in the video's description, so you can just copy and paste those if you'd like. So now let's talk about how to have a macro read a value out of a character sheet. And to help me with this one, let's look at Grolf. Grolf is my fighter, and if we open up his sheet here, you can see he's a level 7 fighter. And fighters in D&D 5e have this ability called Second Wind, which allows them to use a bonus action to regain hit points equal to 1d10 plus your fighter level. So we want to make a macro that will let Grolf do that. So ultimately what we want is something like this, where we see Second Wind, and we see Grolf recovers 1d10 plus his level HP. Okay, so how do we do that? Well, this type of a macro is going to live directly on Grolf's character sheet. It's going to show up here in the attributes and abilities section. So all you want to do is go here, click add in the abilities section, click on the pencil icon, and we'll call this ability Second Wind. All right, now, the inline rolling syntax works inside of an ability as well. So what we want to do is start out with a 1d10. So this looks just like the syntax we were using when we were rolling potions, but now we need to add Grolf's level. So how do we do that? Okay, well, we're going to say plus, and then to access an ability on a character sheet, you use the @ symbol, and then an open curly brace, and then the value from the character sheet. So for us, it's going to be level, and then 2 closing brackets. So how did I know that this was called level? Well, if you go to the character sheet proper and hover over a particular item on the character sheet, you can see @PB, that's his proficiency bonus, @AC, that's his armor class, @initiative _ bonus, that's his initiative. To get the level, though, go back to the attributes and abilities section, and all of these attributes are how you access things. So for us, it's right here. It's just called level. So 1d10 plus level, right? So let's just roll that. There we go, 11. So we can see 1d10. So we rolled a 4 plus 7. That's 11. Awesome. So that gives us our basis for the Second Wind macro. Now, just like before, we want to wrap that in a template. So this is going to look exactly like we did before. I'm going to start out with ampersand, open curly brace, template, :default. And I'm going to make the screen a little bit bigger here so that it's a little easier to read. There we go. Close curly brace, open double bracket. We're going to say Second Wind. Close double bracket, another open double bracket, and we'll say Grolf recovers. And at the end, we'll put in HP. And then closing double curly brace. Save that. Scoot this over a little bit. Let's test it out. Okay, and you'll notice that things didn't look quite right this time, did they? That's because we got to say name equals, and now it works right. So if you omit the name property, you don't get the header here. It's just going to show up in the table as another row. So always make sure that you put your name in there while you're going along. But that's how you can access a value on a character sheet. And you can do that for pretty much anything. You know, as you look through here, you can see you've got your AC, you've got your class, you've got your level, there's your hit dice. All that kind of stuff can be accessed from character sheet using this type of syntax here with the @ level. Now, this syntax is only applicable to Grolf's character sheet. So we're reading straight from this character sheet. I'm going to show you a little bit later how you can read from multiple character sheets at a time. But for right now, this is local to Grolf, so this is all set, and Grolf now has a Second Wind macro. Okay, for my next section here, what I want to do is show you how you can reuse a value that you select multiple times in one of these macros. So why would you want to do this? Well, to illustrate this, I'm going to use Cassandra here. Cassandra is my life cleric, and Cassandra has an ability from the life domain called Disciple of Life. And basically what this means is whenever she casts a healing spell, the creature regains additional hit points equal to 2 plus the spell's level. Now, we can, of course, always go in here and we could just run, say, a Cure Wounds spell, submit that, and you can see that it's healing 1d8 plus Cassandra's Wisdom modifier. That's what Cure Wounds does by default. But because she's got Disciple of Life, she's actually going to be healing more than that. She would be healing another 2 plus the level of the spell that she cast at. So in this example, she would actually be healing 14 HP. And if I'm the guy playing the cleric, I don't want to have to remember that because, you know, I want all that stuff to be displayed for me. Every hit point counts after all. So let's get all that into a macro so that we can just roll and get those HP back. And it's going to look something like this, where we say, okay, what level Cure Wounds are we doing? Let's say it's going to be a 3rd level. Submit. And we see that Cassandra gets Cure Wounds with the appropriate number of dice, because Cure Wounds heals 1d8 per level. So 3d8 plus 3, which is her Wisdom modifier, plus 2, plus the spell's level, so another 5. So that's a grand total of 18 HP recovered. We'll talk about this other stuff in a few minutes. For right now, let's just start with getting the die roll in there and the value selected used multiple times. So how do we do that? Okay, so back in Cassandra's character sheet, let's say add an ability. We're going to call this ability Cure Wounds Life Domain. We're going to start out with our prompt, which is going to be question mark, open curly brace. We'll say what level Cure Wounds, and then close curly brace, right? And then we're going to put in D8 because Cure Wounds uses a D8. So we're going to start out here with what level Cure Wounds. And we're going to take that value and we're going to roll that many D8s. So we're going to wrap this in an inline dice roll, just like before. Okay, so open brackets, closing brackets, and let's just save and let's test that just so you can see what that looks like. So we'll say level 3, submit, and we see, okay, we rolled 3d8. So it took our value that we typed in, it rolled that many d8s. Fantastic. So now what we need to do is build on this, right? Because we're not just adding up the dice, we also need Cassandra's Wisdom modifier. So for that, we're going to say plus, and then at open curly brace, and then the Wisdom modifier is Wisdom _ mod. And again, you can check that by going to the character sheet. I can hover over her Wisdom modifier here, and you see it shows up as at Wisdom _ mod. Okay, so back to our macro here. So at Wisdom mod, okay, so that gets our core Cure Wounds. Now we need to add the Disciple of Life stuff. So we're going to say plus 2 plus the level of the spell. So we need to have that number that we typed in, we need to have that repeated. And the way to do that is we're just going to use the exact same prompt. I'm just going to copy and paste it. And now what's going to happen is the value that we type in gets reused down here. So we're going to say, all right, we're going to cast this at level 3. We'll type in a 3. We'll roll 3d8, and then we'll add 3 to that value for Disciple of Life. We're only going to get prompted once, though, so this isn't going to throw multiple prompts. By using the exact same prompt text, we're going to reuse that value. So let's save this, and I'll show you how that looks. Let me scoot this out of the way. We'll run this. Okay, what level Cure Wounds? We're going to do it at 3. Submit. Okay, and we hover over this. We can see we're rolling 3d8 plus 3. That's Cassandra's Wisdom modifier. Plus 2 plus 3 for Disciple of Life. That gives us our grand total of 31. So now we have that rolling correctly. Okay, so now we can enhance this a little bit. Let's come back in here and let's put this into our template, okay, because we want it to look pretty. So we'll say ampersand, open curly brace, template, :default, close the curly brace, double, name equals Cure Wounds, closing double, and then open double again, and we'll say Cure Wounds heals equals, and at the end here, HP, and then closing brackets again. All right, let's run this. Okay, let's do it at 4th level this time. Okay, Cure Wounds, heals 23, and you can see we're rolling 4d8 plus 3 plus 2 plus 4 to give us our grand total of 23. You notice, though, I had some other stuff in my original macro that I said here. We specified what level we cast it at, and then we also have this blessed healer thing. So let's talk about what that's doing. So let's go back into our macro. I want to specify what level my spell was cast at, right? And to do that, I'm just going to put another set of double curly braces here. Every new set of double curly braces you create sets up another row in the default template. So you can just keep going here. There's no limit to the number of rows you can have. So I've created another set here, and I'm going to say that this was cast at level equals, and then we'll use the what level cure wounds prompt again. So let's copy and paste that. Now you may be asking what this equal sign is actually doing here. And in the rows of the table, like when you see it here, cast at level 3, blessed healer, and so on, that's what's denoting which column the text will appear in. So by default, this template has 2 columns in it, the left and the right. So everything on the left side of the equal sign will appear in the left column. Anything on the right side will appear in the right column. So I want to have cast at level on the left side and then the level itself on the right. So we'll save that, run it. Let's cast at level 2. Okay, so cure wounds heals. There we go. Cast at level 2. And now another feature of the life domain is this ability called Blessed Healer, which means that if a cleric casts a healing spell on someone other than themselves, they regain 2 hit points plus the spell's level. So I want to roll that into this as well. So let's do that. That's just going to be another set of curly braces here. And we're going to say Blessed Healer equals, and then I'm actually going to copy and paste the 2 plus what level cure wounds. And we'll say that Cassandra recovers HP as well. So let's save that. And we want to wrap this in a die roll as well. So we'll save that, run it. Let's do this at first level. And there we go. We see Cassandra recovers 3 HP. Okay, so we've got a really nice little macro now that Cassandra's going to run. Whenever she casts Cure Wounds on somebody, she'll be able to specify what level she's casting the spell at, and then she'll get the other information here about how much HP she's recovering. But you'll notice one other thing here. When you hover over this, there are a lot of numbers here. 1d8 plus 3 plus 2 plus 1. Your DM may say, where is all that coming from, right? So we can actually specify that. If we go back into the macro, I can put another bracket in here. After the wisdom modifier, I can put in an open and a closing bracket, and I can say wisdom, W-I-S, plus what level cure wounds, and I'm going to put in another set of brackets, and I'm going to say inside of here, disciple of life. And let's save that. Now watch what happens. I run this. Let's do it at 3rd level. Okay, so we got our stuff here, but now if I hover over, we see that we've got the wisdom spelled out in the roll. We see 3d8 plus 3 from wisdom plus 2 plus 3 from disciple of life. So all that is now labeled. If we want to roll this up a little further, go back in here and let's take that 2 plus and let's actually put that into parentheses. And now we'll save that, run it. Let's run this again at, let's do 4th. Submit. Okay, so we cast at level 4. And now you see that when we've wrapped that together, that 2 plus 4 disciple of life, now the DM knows that those two things are related. So that 2 and the 4 are coming from disciple of life. And that's just an easier way to kind of bracket everything together. So a really easy way for you to label that information and make it very clear about what each number represents within a given macro. So the last thing I'm going to show you is how you can write a macro that will query multiple values from multiple character sheets. So for example, if you are the GM, you may want to know kind of how all your characters are doing at a glance, how much HP they have, stuff like that. So a macro like this tells me here is the current HP of all of the characters in my party. So how did I create that? Okay, well, like before, we'll start out here. We'll create a new macro. And I'm going to call this the party health macro. And we'll begin by seeing how to query a value from the character sheet. And it's very similar to what you saw me doing earlier with the sheet-specific macros. It's an @ sign, and then an open curly brace, and then it's the name of the character, so Cassandra, and then a pipe, and then the value off that sheet you want to query. So if I want to get Cassandra's HP, I would just type this in, and I can see it's 12. And that's right, if I look at Cassandra's character sheet, she has 12 hit points out of her current 14. If I want to get Cassandra's maximum HP, it's similar. Let's scoot this out of the way. But it's a second set of pipes. So it's Cassandra, pipe HP, pipe max. And that tells me 14. So that's how we do that. So now let's put that together, and we'll put it into a template. And I'm just going to copy and paste this in. I think you guys are good with seeing that. And it'll be, the double brace will say name equals party health, right? That'll give us our title bar. And then we're going to have a row for each character. So double curly brace. And I find it's easier sometimes to close the braces as well right away, just so that you don't forget them. So what we'll say here is Cassandra equals, and then it'll be at open curly brace Cassandra pipe HP. Close that, okay? And then a slash, and then at Cassandra pipe HP pipe max. Like this. And so let's save this, and I'm just going to run it real quick. I'm going to go in here. I'm going to find my party health macro. I'm going to put it in the bar. I'll run this. And you can see right now, Cassandra, 12 out of 14. So if we want to repeat that for our other characters, we just put in more, another row for each of them. So another set of double braces, and we'll do Grolf equals, and it's going to be the exact same thing, just we're going to replace Cassandra with Grolf. So we'll just copy and paste that. Grolf and Grolf. And then I would do that for, I have another character in here named Grenda Fireforge. And so I would just change this to be Grenda Fireforge equals Grenda Fireforge, Grenda Fireforge. So the one thing to remember about this is you need to have the character's name exactly as it appears on the character sheet. So Cassandra and Grolf don't have last names, but Grenda does. That's important because the name has to match exactly as it does on the sheet. But now if I save this and we run it, there we go. We've got all three of our characters spelled out here with their current HP and their maximum HP. So that's how you can query values from multiple character sheets in a given macro. Now, the thing to know about this is you're only going to be able to do this for characters that you control. So the GM can do it for everybody, but if you're a player, you're only going to be able to get values for the characters that have been assigned to you. So you can't just pull this up for all of the other characters in your party. You can only do it for the ones that you are assigned to. The other thing to mention is you cannot customize the default template. So this purple background and whatnot, that's what you get. There are ways to customize the templates using the API, but I'm not getting into that in this video. I just want to cover things that everybody can do without needing to use the API here. So there you go. We've seen how to create macros, how to format inline dice rolls, how to use templates in order to make them look nice, how to retrieve values off character sheets, all kinds of great stuff today. So I hope you found this video helpful. Thanks for watching. If you did enjoy it, please give it a like and consider subscribing. And until next time, folks, have a great day.